So a majority of people in the country, I'd say the world, don't know where electricity comes from, how it's even made, and really they don't even care, okay? So the challenge with all that is they're free to not like everything. So you go around the world and people don't like things, they don't like everything. And you say, what do you like? So we got to take this energy conversation, energy education, to a little bit different level. So my outline is simple, the 5 E's. So the Mensa Invitational, this is the geniuses in the world. We're asked to subtract or add letters and change a definition, so click. And so I've highlighted the letter in yellow that they change. Intoxication is before you get a tax refund until you realize it was your money to begin with. That's intoxication. All right, click. Reincarnation, that's coming back to life as a hillbilly. And the third one, which will show why I don't run for public office, is ignoramus. That's a person who's both stupid and an asshole. So, okay, go ahead. Here we go. People. We heard a lot about it this morning. We've been growing. The world's been growing. It took 4.4 billion years to get the first billion people on Earth. We're at about 1 billion people every 13 or 14 years now. Click. Growth rates are coming down, luckily. Click. But as was mentioned this morning, forecasts go out to about 10 or 11 billion, most of that in Asia and Africa over the next 30, 40, 60, 70 years. Click. Go ahead. Correlation and causation are hard to prove, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. People consume energy. Blue line is energy consumption. Pretty tight correlation. I'm going to say that's causation. We are the ones who consume energy. Click. Where are the people? Every color on this map represents about 1 billion people in the world. You can see how they're distributed. Click. Over half the people in the world live inside that circle. Say that differently. Fewer than half the people in the world live outside that circle today. So you can't talk about energy or emissions or global world product without thinking about that center right there. Click. How do we use energy? Go ahead, click. My slides are all color-coded. Green's always oil, red's natural gas. The gray color is always coal. That next color is nuclear. We used to say nuclear in Texas. The governor will be here at lunch. Nuclear. We call it bilingual. Say it however you want. Hydro, renewables there in yellow. Those wouldn't have been there in that graph 30 years ago. Click. How's that look different around the world? North America looks a lot like the world. Go ahead. Europe, you might think would look different based on what you read in here, but it looks just about the exact same. A little more gas, a little less oil. Go ahead. South America, no coal really. A lot of hydro. Go ahead. A lot of coal in Africa. Click. Oil and gas in the Middle East. No surprise there. But they're looking at about 12 nuclear reactors in Saudi right now. And then finally, coal dominates. This isn't power gen. This is all energy in Southeast Asia. Now what I'm going to do is shrink these and grow these to be proportional to demand today. Go ahead. Now they equal our consumption levels. So you can see how we're consuming energy. Coal in Southeast Asia is more than the rest of the world's coal consumption combined times 2. And that's a big challenge. Go ahead. Where's the oil going to come from? This is how it's distributed with developed and undeveloped nations. Click. There it is with OPEC, former Soviet Union, same data. Go ahead. And finally, by geopolitical region. Click. North America on the bottom. And you can see Middle East dominates quite a bit there. Click. When I was learning how to drive, our energy consumption trend was pretty steep for oil. We had the first embargo, and then it became more gradual, the rate of increase, but we're over 30 billion barrels a year today. 30 billion barrels every single year. Click. What's the options to oil? Well, you could have unconventional oil. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Shale oil, shale, other things. Click. You could grow it, but there are challenges there, low density challenges, biofuels. Hold up, you clicked one a little quick there. You got to stay with me on this. All right, land, water, conversion, and scale. Big challenges, click. Natural gas, we could put it in vehicles. The Fort Worth bus system runs completely on natural gas. Compression, fleets are great for this. Go ahead. Electric, we can put it in vehicles. Most people actually remember the first conundrum. They don't know where electricity is made. They're thinking plugging into something clean. Electrons are just in the wall. That's how it's built. No, it's coal, natural gas, nuclear, and other things. That's what you're charging those batteries with, Elon Musk. Click. Hydrogen fuel cells. They were big under Bush 43. Not much research now, just 10 years away. Always will be, okay? But I actually like them for some things. Click. Or, click, we can do this. That's actually a modern picture. We can't do this. You can't put 7 billion of these on the roads today. You can't feed and store them, and the methane emissions out of those engines are way more extreme than CO2. Click. On the other hand, we got this. 2,000 horses on the back of a rubber boat. It's not bass fishing in Mississippi. They caught this thing running the English Channel. It was going so fast they didn't know what it was. They sent a chopper out and brought it in. It was running drugs. You can see the bags in the back right. You had to be on drugs to get on this boat. Yeah. But this is our world today. Not the world we would design or conceive or orchestrate from above. It's the world that is. It's the world we have to evolve with and deal with. Click. And as the governor knows, in Texas, we cover the whole extreme, from all different vehicles. Go ahead. Click. So where does this put us? Looking out at liquids. In North America, largely flat, green and light green, or gasoline and diesel out to 2040. Europe, same scale. Go ahead. Asia Pacific, growing a lot of vehicles being sold. They were a third of the U.S. in 2005. China, they're 1.4 the U.S. today, from 5 million to close to 20 million, 22 million vehicles, mostly gasoline. Click. We're not going to see as much of this in Asia. If you're counting, that's 9 on one motorcycle. Okay. You still see it, but not as much. Click. How about natural gas? Same story. Go ahead. North America growing a lot in Russia. Click. Instead of the trends that stop with embargo, now we're steeping, we're increasing our consumption. 115 trillion cubic feet of gas is a lot. If I were to stack that as a gas on a U.S. football field, just as gas in cubic feet, it would go past the moon. If I compress it to liquids, it's 50 miles tall every year in natural gas. It's a lot. Click. What are the options there? There are more. Go ahead. Click. Coal, it's wonderful. Available, reliable. It is dirtier. You mine it. It makes CO2 emissions and particulates and SOx and NOx and mercury and stuff you got to scrub out of it. Okay, click. Nuclear, it's fantastic. Affordable, reliable, no emissions. It's expensive to build in some parts of the world. You have to deal with the waste and other kinds of things. Safety. Click. Wind, simple. Machines are simple, it's pretty affordable, there aren't any emissions, but it's intermittent, and that's not trivial, as the governor said this morning. And land and transmission. Click. Same with solar. That makes these things more expensive. I mean, with solar, there's things called night and clouds and other things that make it less efficient. You have to backstop these, right? Click. Hydro, it's great. There just aren't many more dam sites. There aren't any more dam sites in the world. Go ahead. And finally, geothermal, which I actually like. But there are not that many sites for it, industrial scale. We might start to see it in homes. Click. So you will hear from people that, is it flashing up there as well as here? All right, so I'm not clicking, I promise. You'll hear from folks that this transition is just a matter of political will. All we have to do is get our political heads around it, it'll happen. Well, there's thermodynamics and kinetics and materials and economics and scale and everything else you've been hearing about this morning to make that leap. Click. This guy makes a leap. He's in the Grand Canyon. That's 4,000 feet down. You want to stabilize that, or should I keep going? Can you do anything about it? All right, I'll keep going. He's in sandals. He's wearing flip-flops, and the cameraman said he slipped and caught his gear and threw it on the rock and walked away. So he's an idiot, right? Who would do that? Nobody would do that. Why would we make that leap into the energy future? Why would we pick a winner or two when we're usually wrong when we do that anyway? Okay, go ahead, click. Levelized cost. You'll hear this. The net present value of the capital and operating costs of a unit over its lifetime divided by what it produces over its life is a levelized cost. It doesn't include the intermittency. Click. A neat study came out. This shows the costs of things compared to coal. Cleaner things compared to coal. Those are some of the costs, mostly capacity. Go ahead, click. And here are the benefits from it. Avoided emissions, avoided energy costs, avoided capacity costs. So you can see the costs and benefits, click. And then they calculated, worked through a series of things to look at the net, click. Actually, wind and solar don't do so well. And by the time you get to nuclear and natural gas, the net cost benefit is much better that way for emissions reductions. You don't read about this too often yet, but you should, okay? You should read about this. This is one of the things, if it's really about climate and emissions reductions, here's some of the options. Nuclear and natural gas look pretty good. Click. So what's the future look like in power? A little bit up in North America and Europe, click. Have we done this? Have we replaced coal with natural gas and nuclear as this forecast shows? Click. Yes, faster. Gas has been replacing coal. Why? Fracking. It made it cheap. Click. Our emissions came down. We're in 1990s levels already in this country. They've come down faster than any nation on earth. CO2 emissions is what I'm talking about. Into the atmosphere. Click. Has Europe done this? Are they on this path? Click. Nope. Moratorium on fracking. Moratorium on nuclear. They're now burning more coal in Germany. They're taking physical delivery of coal from the Powder River Basin in the U.S. on trains to diesel fire barges, back on trains to Germany. They mix it with their lignite, where they get jobs, and burn it. OECD Europe is burning more coal the last 5 years in a row than they ever have. Now, they're a green-thinking economy, but you can't not like everything. If you don't like fracking and you don't like nukes, you love coal. Germany is a little bit stressed with its resource of sun. It's about like Seattle, if you look at a global intensity map. So this is one of the great challenges. Back to the first conundrum. You can't not like everything. Click. Same scale Asia Pacific. Here we go. Click. They consume as much as North America and Europe combined today and are going way past in power gen. And the gray is coal. Click. That's a forecast. But as a result of all this, 2005 to 11, China's CO2 emissions have gone up substantially. They were about where we were in 2005, added 3 billion tons a year. The U.S. has gone down more than anybody on earth because of commerce, not cap and trade or tax policy. Good old-fashioned commerce that made natural gas cheaper. Gas still emits CO2, but it's less. Click. Therefore, India and China have cheap electricity. They burn a lot of coal. U.S. is around 12. These numbers can vary. And Germany, as was said by Karen earlier, in this is about 3x the U.S. That's the reality of costs today. Click. Let's look at the economy. Go ahead. This is U.S. GDP. Below the line are recessions. Click. This is the price of oil in 2013 dollars. Okay? It was close to $100 a barrel, and it's close to $100 a barrel today. These are our recessions. When the price of oil spiked steeply, we went into recession. In fact, 6 of the last 7 global recessions were preceded by a price in the spike of oil as a proxy for energy. This is not correlation causation. Economies are a lot more complicated than the price of oil, but it underpins economies, as the governor said so well this morning. Click. It's fun to see who was in power. Red Republican, blue Democrat. We don't vote for people when we're not doing well economically in this country. Mr. Carter, Mr. Bush, Mr. Ford. And we'll see where things head. As was said well, though, Mr. Clinton enjoyed 8 years of lowest oil prices around for half a century and a pretty good economy, and we'll see where it heads now. Click. Environment. So these are the shale basins in the country. Click. There's some big ones we've been studying. Go ahead and click a couple times. The red ones are the shale gas basins. I lead a team that's been studying these intensely, and the green are the big shale oil basins in the country. Not all shale works. It doesn't work here, and it won't work in the rest of the world in most of the basins. You have to have the right conditions. Click. Go ahead. Ed Morris is a friend in New York. In 2010, Ed, how much shale oil are we going to get? And these are the big basins. I'm showing an internal rate of return of 10%. So $45 to $70 a barrel, 75 bucks a barrel. More expensive. But he went from less than 1 million a day to close to 4 million barrels a day. In 12 years, people said, really? Click. How we doing? There's the actual production from shale oil. It's right on. It may not stay there, but it's right on pace with this forecast. Go ahead. This is oil production in our country back to when it was discovered in Titusville, Pennsylvania in 1859. It peaked, looks like a mountain there, and has been coming crashing down, click, and you'll hear peak oil and people think we're going to all fall off a cliff and die. Probably only these fools are going to fall off a cliff and die. I don't know what they're doing, and I've looked hard. I don't think that's Photoshop, click. But let's take Ed's forecast at the same horizontal and vertical scale and put it on this figure, click. There it is. Now, if I had come to you 5 years ago and said, this is my forecast for the production of oil in the United States of America, you would have said, this is an idiot. Are you kidding? Now, we could look at gas and see that happening. Click. We're almost there. We're at 3.1 billion today. It's happening faster. Twin Peaks, a new name for peak oil. Twin Peaks. Click. How about gas? This is a forecast by Ken Medlock, good friend down at Rice, a real good economist. Go ahead, click. How we doing? Ahead of schedule from the shale gas in the country. Now, it may not last. A lot of things can happen. I want to talk about some of those. Click. These are our studies at the Bureau. We've looked at every single well in every single one of these fields. Engineers, geologists, and economists working together. These are the 4 big ones, the Barnett, the Fayetteville, the Haynesville, and the Marcellus. Click. This is what we forecast to be produced at a $4 fixed price of gas. That's that black line. Click. If we run it on the EIA price deck out to the future, growing to 6, it grows. Click. And then out on $6, it grows even more. It's substantial. Click. Go ahead, click. This is the EIA's on the same 4 basins out to 2030 on their price deck. Click. And here's ours. They're different. They're substantially different. And we work a lot with the EIA. Be going up there in a couple weeks. Same teams talking. You can read about these studies and see why they diverge, but as we're thinking about LNG exports and manufacturing and the other kinds of things we use methane for, these are quite different. I know Ernie Moniz quite well. He's in the film I made a lot called Switch. And Lynn Orr and others up there, Chris Smith. Okay? They're thinking about this. Is it 2 times different in 2030 or not? Happy to talk about out there some of the drivers behind this. Go ahead. This is the shale reserves in the world. Estimates of shale reserves in the world. Click. I mean, what drives these things? Well, supply and private ownership drives it here. We're the only ones who own our minerals. You're pretty motivated to have that well come out on your land when you get a royalty. There's some private jets being flown out of South Texas now in the Eagle Ford, and they weren't flying jets a few years ago. Click. Europe is passionately confused. They don't know what they think. Okay? They don't like everything. Click. You know it's Russia and the Middle East. They're missing from this map. Don't they have any? Of course they have it. Anywhere you find conventional oil and gas, you're going to find source rocks. Mr. Putin in Moscow doesn't want to sell expensive shale gas to Europe. He'd rather sell the cheap stuff. He's been funding anti-shale, anti-fracking propaganda. The Middle East ships 3 trillion cubic feet of methane from their Huff formation in the North Field through the Straits of Hormuz, out of the Rosgas Alpha LNG facilities around the world. They aren't really excited to go to expensive source rocks yet. It's just business for them. I'd do it too. Let's sell stuff that's cheaper and make the margins today. Click. China, demand. That's what drives China all over the world. Karen said it really well. Click. Australia has some supply, so does South America. The numbers are starting to come in. All these basins won't work. Some will. And finally, Africa lives on what we geologists call a craton. It's mostly hard rocks. They wish they had some. Maybe they will in the south and maybe some in the north. This is the politics of shale. It's going to be fascinating to watch this distribution play out over the next half century. Click. Fracking, click. You know what this is. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I made it. Click on an airplane, so you get to suffer with my animation. You drill down, you drill horizontally, click. You inject fluids at pressure, and mostly it's water and proppant, but there are other things in it. They are revealed in frac focus voluntarily, some mostly by law now. Click. And then these little frac jobs that are wiggling there for your enjoyment. I put 5 stages in that one. And people worry that that disturbs the surface, and it doesn't. That's been misrepresented intentionally. Click. But there are things that go on up here in the oil and gas business and always have. Click. What are some of them? Click. We have to mine the proppant off outcrop walls with water, get the sand or manufacture it. Click. Click. Surface drilling. There's noise and light and dust and roads, and there are traffic accidents and there are fatalities, click, that are going on with these things. There are 16,000 wells in the Barnett alone. Okay, 16,000, not 1,500 like you're shooting for. 10 times that in the Barnett alone. All right, click. We bring stuff to the surface. There's, those pits leak now and then. Sometimes, click, when you produce all that fluid, you have to do something with it. You have to clean it up. Usually expose it in deep wells. On a rare occasion, those cross a geologic fault and pressure it up. And induced seismicity happens. It's really rare, but it can happen. And finally, this completion and production process, click. Now, this is not to scale. It looks like the fracking going on down there is right near the surface. I'm going to put it to scale, click. Now it's to scale. There are thousands of feet of rock between the fracking and the surface. Click. Here's the data, Marcellus. Those wells are drilled deep along the chattery bottom, and there's the freshwater aquifer near the surface. The shallowest wells are about a mile down. Click. Here's the Eiffel Tower for scale. Click again. We'll put it to scale. It's about 5 Eiffel Towers away from the surface. That doesn't contaminate groundwater. If you get too close, it could, and you're dumb to permit it too close. Click. But these things are happening in regulatory world right now, and most of them are good. Not all of them, but most of them are improving things. Baseline data, protecting water, etc. Click. So I'll talk about a couple of them. Click. Here's water in Texas. Mostly irrigation and municipal uses of fresh water. We cool things. We cool power plants. Go ahead and click. Thermoelectric cooling, and click again. This thing we call mining. Click. That's down there with fracking. Mining, all the oil and gas stuff is part of mining, as is aggregates and stuff. Fracking is a part of that percentage there. Small part. But if you get sub-regional with it, and there's no irrigation and there's no municipal use, then it becomes a bigger percentage. And if you're in arid lands, it matters. Okay? You have to be thoughtful with it. This is a Landsat of Texas back in 1994. You see San Antonio and the border towns. Click it again. Watch south of San Antonio. You didn't know we built a city twice the size of Houston, did you? And Houston is the biggest geographic city in the country. That's the Eagle Ford. That's rig lights and flaring that's still going on in Texas. You can see it from space. Click. Land use, 16,000 wells. Click. This is our sister campus, UT Arlington. They didn't want it built. They didn't want it drilled. It's about 400 acres. Click. So this pad drilled 19 wells from a single pad. Horizontals went under the campus. So if I divide 16,000 by 20, it's 800 surface locations. That's a whole different scene. And that's what's happening now is multi-well pads. Less surface infrastructure required. Go ahead, click. Dilbert talks about this. He says we're going to frack under our biggest competitor's headquarters, pollute their water, and generate earthquakes to destroy their campus. And their project code name is Fracking Awesome. So Dilbert says, hey, catchy. You know. That's what the public believes, though. Go ahead, click. So the trade-offs. All this stuff I just talked about against what? Click. Available, affordable, reliable energy. Jobs and taxes. You would be led to believe these are mutually exclusive. Energy and the environment are you. John Hickenlooper, governor in Colorado, is a geologist, Democrat. He's asked, do you believe in energy and the environment, John? He says, yes. That's what I feel too. They're not mutually exclusive. That's his last photo taken. So to be fair, if the bull was EPA, this is industry. Hey, look what we got. Fracking. Look behind you. It's the public. Are you going to contaminate water, cause earthquakes? What's going on with fracking? They want to know. They should know. Click. So these aren't mutually exclusive. They have to work together. Energy and the environment. Go ahead. Click. Efficiency. It's really about energy security. I'm not a big fan, sorry, Governor, of energy independence. That's for politicians to talk about. But I think security is critical. And we can have it. Is it affordable? The cost is part of that. Is the price volatile? Go ahead. The infrastructure costs, those are all part of affordability. Click. Is it available? Can I get to it? Or will it be cut off from me somehow? Is it reliable? Intermittent? Safe? Now we're getting in sync here. I can feel it. I don't even say click anymore. Is it clean? Go ahead. It's not just atmosphere, though. What about how much land gets used? It was 21,000 acres was mentioned this morning for solar for 20% of your power. And how about dry? How much water? Those are all sustainability challenges. Nothing is perfect. No energy form meets all of these. Click. So you see energy, you see the economy, you see the environment, the 3 E's. They're always there dancing together. Click. There they are. Click. And efficiency. Mentioned right, I think Mr. Holt mentioned it right near the end of the panel. Efficiency. The 4th E. Click. Lots of benefits. I mean, the benefits are unbelievable to being more efficient with energy. Why don't we do it? Click. Well, it's tough to incentivize you to produce less. And I speak a lot to all the upstream and midstream. Great business model. Go to your board. We're going to produce less again this year. How's that going to go? Okay. It's expensive to retrofit and install. Requires a cultural change. The way we use energy is unbelievable, the amount. It's a cultural change. Go ahead. We had a little contest for energy efficiency. So, can we be the Ditto House this year? Sure looks more efficient. Click. It requires new thinking, right? Efficiency is new thinking. Go ahead. So finally, education. Here we sit with the 4 E's. Click. We bring those together, and it's all about educating people. We're really not very bright, back to my first conundrum about energy. Click. So as we look at the global future, boy, this is going to be a lot of clicking. Just click slowly through it. Oils, this is percent coming down. Coal came back up. Natural gas is rising. Again, this is a percent in the mix. Nuclear flat, hydro. This is my description of the future out to 2080. I did it in 2009. Go ahead and click. Now, if we look at the exact same thing with real units, click them. Go ahead and just click through them. Oil rises, coal rises, everything rises because of what? Population and energy demand. Click. The top graph can be stacked up, same data, and there you see 100% of it. The bottom graph can be stacked. Go ahead. It looks like this. You see the demand. Now we can compare those two. Click. 70% coal and oil in 1980 in the world. 40% in 2080. The foundational energies. 200 units. Click. Verse 300, so still more coal and oil. 70 to 450 of everything else. Natural gas, nuclear, and all the renewables, and hydro. That's a huge change. Click. It looks, you can simplify it, and it looks like this. And we made a film, click, called Switch. Went around 11 countries, filmed to over 5 million, shown to over 5 million people now, 700 universities. That's how we got our logo. It's on Amazon if you want to see it. It looks at this whole transition. So I'll conclude here. GDP per person against energy consumption per person by major economies in the world. Click. The U.S. sits up in the upper right. We consume the most energy and make the most GDP. Our trends on a per capita have been flat, as have most developed nations. China, click, is in the lower left, starting to grow. Click. The world average is here. Click it again. 3 billion people, plus or minus, live there. Click. And they want to grow and industrialize like we've done. Go ahead. If they do it the way we did it, they're going to consume a heck of a lot of energy. Okay, click. It'd be great if those people could, go ahead, can do it with consuming no energy. That's never happened. Probably won't. Click. But you see the data rolling over. You're seeing efficiency come in as we move into the next century of energy consumption. Go ahead. So we think about heady things, we the developed nations, on the right side of this graph. Balance of trade, imports and exports, infrastructure, resources, climate change, energy security. The other half of the world, click, thinks about things like eating and a house, some clothing, maybe a little electricity for the 1.5 billion people who have none. All right? Maybe some education. Click. They want to do what we've done, and they should be able to. Energy should not limit the lifting from poverty of the world. That shouldn't be the limiting factor. Click. So the radical middle, go ahead, is us. It's industry, governments, and academics coming together, click, into this middle. Now we can stay in our corners and always be right and righteous about it, and I've heard a little bit of that this morning. Not compromise. No, we're always right. Have you always ever been right in your life? No. Everybody has something to contribute to this. If we stay in our corners, go ahead. We'll probably end up like these guys. They were putting in these posts to keep people from parking next to the building. I guess they forgot where they parked. That can happen if you stay in your corner too long. Click. So what are the top 10? Energy, the economy, and the environment are linked. I hope you've seen that. Go ahead. Oil and coal are abundant at the right price, and they're hard to replace. Go ahead. Natural gas and nuclear are the new foundational energies of this century. Shale is going to play a role. Above ground is as challenging as below ground. Go ahead. Renewables are growing and remain supplements until we solve storage. Diverse portfolios are inevitable, and they're healthy. As with anything, efficiency is underappreciated. Your behavior matters, so does mine. Driver, security, available, affordable, reliable, sustainable. It drives our behavior around energy. Should be the goal of policy. The scale of demand is impossible to understand. It's huge. Impossible to fully describe how much energy we consume every year in the world. And finally, we all play a role in education. We all got to do it, okay? Otherwise, back to my first conundrum, people are going to think it comes from the wall, and then we can't move forward. All right? Thanks. I'm going to go hop on our corporate jet from Texas and fly home. Thank you.